What up, my fellow NBA lovers? This is your guy Marcellus Ease. And this upcoming pending series between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Miami Heat makes me wonder, what does good old Pat Riley have up his sleeve? As we can see, he assembled a pretty good team. He found, low-key talent in Tyler Hero, Derrick Jones Jr., who can guard multiple positions, Bam Adebayo, and of course, he had Justice Winslow, which he made a trade and acquired Andre Iguodala off the bench, and of course, the signing with Jimmy Butler. But Miami does have 2021 free agency on their site. Now, this series coming up here is going to be a litmus test for the Bucks, and it's going to be the beginning of Pat Riley pitching himself to Giannis. You guys check out this segment, and every once in a while, I'm going to check in.
Stephen A., tell me this. You think the Heat might upset the Bucks?
I think they might. I haven't.
Now, let me stop Stephen A. right there. Let me just say this. The Bucks definitely have much better talent than the Heat. The only difference is the Heat has shown that through adversity, especially through all the injuries that they have a next guy up. Now for Milwaukee, the signing of Eric Bledsoe, those fruits have to bear in this series. And especially Chris Middleton. He's going to have to step up and still be that consistent player that they had all season. The playoffs are going to be a litmus test, especially for Chris Middleton. He has to be that second guy to support Giannis.
Watched much of the Bucks series against Orlando. That's the only series I really haven't watched. I've watched every other series except them. I wasn't interested in it, or things were going on and I didn't have time to watch when their particular game is on. But I have watched the Heat, and although it was against the Pacers, I've been saying all year long, not as much as Kendrick Perkins has, but I've been saying all year long what a threat Miami was because of their perimeter shooting. I am a Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero fan. And of course, I love my man Jimmy Butler. And you just see the difference. The Sixers are home because they don't have Jimmy Butler, period. If they had Jimmy Butler, this series with Boston at the very least would still be going on. They certainly would not have gotten swept. They would have been far more competitive. And they weren't, because he's a leader and he's a winner and he's tough as nails.
Now, can you imagine Jimmy Butler right next to Giannis as like a 1B to a 1A? That's going to be a very nice fit right there. And low-key, the Miami Heat also acquired Jay Crowder, which is a perfect fit for that team, that system that they run.
Obviously, something that would have had an impact. And he's clearly had an impact on Miami, and Adebayo's no joke as well. Kelly Olynyk has performed well at times as well this season. I just look at their perimeter shooting. I think that's the Achilles heel against Milwaukee. When you hit perimeter shots, and more importantly, you have the speed and athleticism to go out and defend their perimeter shooters, it appears to be a problem with the George Hills, and especially.
Now, speaking of perimeter shooting, Chris Nunn had a family issue, had to leave the bubble. So when he came back in, Miami actually had another guard start in place of him in Duncan Robinson, who actually played pretty good. But Chris Nunn is going to have to get back in stride. And as long as he's pretty consistent, it's going to be a very interesting series. Like I said, Eric Bledsoe, he's going to have a lot on his plate because he had one of the worst playoff performances last year against the Toronto Raptors. And they signed him over keeping Malcolm Brogdon.
Especially the Eric Bledsoes of the world. The Greek Freak is nothing to play with, make no mistake about it. But I do think that Miami has a chance to beat them. I'm thinking about picking them. I haven't made that decision yet. I still got a few hours. But I'm actually thinking about picking them in this series.
I don't blame you. I think either one of these teams, under the right circumstances, can run the table. Like, either one of these teams are capable of winning a championship right now. But if you...
Now, first of all, that's a lot of disrespect. Miami does not have, their best players are nowhere near the best players in Milwaukee. Eric Bledsoe is way more talented than Dragic, way more talented than Tyler Hero. And then, of course, Jimmy Butler versus Giannis. Giannis can go up to a level that Jimmy Butler can't. And as far as a consistent shooter, Miami doesn't even have a consistent shooter like Chris Middleton. So it's a lot of disrespect right here. It's probably because these guys are located in Milwaukee.
Force me to pick right now, I'll say the Bucks. I know why everyone likes the Heat. Stephen A., you could go up and down that whole roster, led by Jimmy Butler, championship heart Obviously, Dragic had another big game. You have multiple guys who can handle and create for others and get their own shot. You have multiple guys who can shoot. You mentioned them, Hero, and especially Duncan Robinson, who can shoot the lights out from outside. You have multiple guys who can defend, including Iguodala, a Swiss Army knife player in Crowder. Kendrick, Perk, you brought up.
Now, speaking of Dragic, he's been playing really well this series. I guess he's been hurt the whole year. They've been saving him for certain key moments of the postseason. But Dragic, come the end of the season, he's going to be off that Miami Heat books. That's why I said there's going to be plenty of space for Giannis, plenty of space for them to perhaps get a couple more pieces to put around this team. But overall, man, this team right now, just Pat Riley is very good at finding gems, especially after LeBron left. I mean, it's just he keeps finding guys. Like I said, he found Justice Winslow. He got Kelly Olynyk from Boston. He found Chris Nunn this season, who's been basically out of the G League. He's been playing really good for them. He found Bam Adebayo. I mean, this guy just keeps going in.
You brought up the, Crowder, obtaining Crowder is a key piece. Obviously, Bam playing defense and doing everything. This team is deep and excellent, has leadership. It's a good organization. Head coach with championship experience. They have everything. The Bucks have the Greek freak. And while you can wall up against him, we've seen the blueprint. Miami's not exactly built that way. If they have a weakness, it's that they're undersized. When you look at Toronto last year, it was the best defender really of the era in Kawhi Leonard, picking him up early, and then they were walling up with Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol, 6'11", 7+, shot blocking, defenders. That's a little bit different than Miami. And so because of it, and also Middleton's come around now. And he hasn't been great, although he was great late in the game. But eventually a guy like that, you would think, given enough games, is going to start to hit his shots.
Yeah, once again, Middleton has to go back to doing what he's been doing during the regular season. Especially last year, in very big moments, Middleton kind of came up small. See, that's pretty much Milwaukee's issue right now. It's going to be that Chris Middleton, that money that they gave him, the money that they give Eric Bledsoe, they're pretty much locked in. So these guys are going to have to step up.
Antetokounmpo told him before the last game, just shoot, just keep shooting, even if you miss. And it worked. And late in the game, he got hot. So I think because of the singular talent of the Freak and because of the matchup, if you force me to pick between two teams that I believe could win the whole thing right now, that's what's interesting about these playoffs. You can say that about a bunch of teams. At least I can. I'll take the Bucks.
Another thing that hurt the Bucks was Nikolai, the guy that got drafted out of Chicago. Them making a trade for him last year when he was in the Pelicans. He just walked away and went back to Europe. That really hurt the Bucks. So you combine that with the signing of Eric Bledsoe. Of course, they didn't want to go over the cap. Ownership is kind of cheap. They didn't want to keep Brogdon. They let him go. And then now you have Chris Middleton coming up small in the playoffs. All these things combined, like I said, this team has to get to the finals. That's pretty much the goal for the Milwaukee Bucks this season, is to win the championship and get to the finals. Anything shorter than that is a failure.
Well, I feel like the Miami Heat have the recipe to beat the Milwaukee Bucks, led by Eric Spoelstra, one of my favorite coaches in today's game.
Now, speaking of Eric Spoelstra, low-key, that will be perhaps the best coach that LeBron James will ever have in his whole NBA career. Had LeBron stayed in Miami, you guys would have seen Eric Spoelstra. He was in his younger days, but that's the only time in LeBron James's career where he had to actually play within a system that was designed by Pat Riley and kind of being divvied out by Eric Spoelstra. But Eric Spoelstra has come, he's been molded into his position. And there's a reason why Pat Riley has kept him in that position that long. This guy is a really good coach. He's basically a film room nerd.
He has the recipe. He has the players. He has the bodies. We know defense wins championships, and that's what the Miami Heat hang their hats on, playing defense. They got multiple guys that they could throw at Giannis. Jay Crowder, Andre Iguodala, Bam. You have all these multiple guys that you could throw at him. They defend at a high level. The
only thing is true, they do have a lot of guys, but none of these guys can go up to another level that Giannis can go up to. And you could even include Jimmy Butler in that pack. They just have a bunch of guys that are good, but you always need, in the modern NBA era, you tend to need a superstar that'll go up to a different level that guys can't get at. There's only been the Detroit Pistons in 2004 without a mega superstar was able to defeat the Lakers and win the championship, but that's been pretty much the only example of just a bunch of guys that are kind of good. But most teams that have won the championships has had a guy that can go up to a different level, a mega superstar.
Look at their roster from top to bottom. You look at guys like Kendrick Nunn, Goran Dragic. You look at guys like Iguodala again. And then all of a sudden you have the Splash Brothers of the Eastern Conference. No disrespect to Clay and Steph. We know them guys are future Hall of Famers, but Tyler Hero and Duncan, you can leave them open if you want to, and that's what Milwaukee do. They give up three-point shots. They stop you from getting to the ranked #1 in protecting the paint and protecting the rim.
Yeah, right there. I don't know what happened if there was a glitch or something, but Kendrick brought up a great point. The Bucks love to stop guys from coming inside the paint and scoring. So they kind of let guys go ahead and shoot their threes or whatever. But because Miami does have some good three-point shooters, they're probably going to have to make major adjustments. But it's going to be very interesting to see how the Bucks do, because this will be the first layer of just some adversity into their postseason. But this shouldn't be a major test for them. This should just be a smaller test because they have other major hurdles to get over.
But what do Miami rank #1 in? Shooting the three, and they do it at a high level. And I keep saying this, the steal in that Andre Iguodala trade was Jay Crowder. No one really talked about him, but he was a steal, a sleeper. And now he's been an unsung hero for this Miami Heat team that just upsetted a well-coached Indiana Pacer team by Nate McMillan. But listen, Jimmy Butler didn't even play well offensively, and they swept that series. So yes, I am picking the Miami Heat to upset the Milwaukee Bucks.
And that's a great cushion that Giannis could have in Miami if he joins them. The fact that he doesn't have to have a good shooting night and other guys can cover for him. So that's one key issue right there that can be fixed for Giannis if he does make the decision to lead the Milwaukee Bucks. Like I said, Pat Riley, he's assembling something for just for them to get one more piece. Miami just needs a mega star to come there, and they're good. They should be championship bound.
On all this smoke.
The Pacers didn't have Sabonis, and Oladipo is compromised. I mean, I think the Heat win anyway, but the reason they won as easily as they did is because that Pacers team was not at 100%.
That's actually a good point by Max right there. Had Indiana, Victor Oladipo been a lot healthier, a lot more in stride, because he's still adjusting, because he has not played that well, even coming back into the bubble. But like I said, he's coming off that injury where he was out for a year. But also Sabonis was out, and just Miles Turner was left out there just exposed. This series probably would have went 7 maybe, or even 4 games to 2 or 4, or even 7. So had Indiana actually been healthy like they were in the beginning of the season, because they was making a lot of moves. Even last year, they were playing very well when they were all together. This could have been a great first-round series between the Heat and the Pacers, and it would have really put the Heat to the test.
Well, guys, I realize how good the Heat are. They're the sleepers. Stephen A., I'll come to you on this. But is this a must-win for Giannis?
The whole season is a must-win for Giannis. They got to get to the finals, or they got to win the finals. One or the other. Anything short of that, it's a fail.
I think it's a must-win for Milwaukee, because if they lose and they bow out early, then Giannis is approaching the last year of his contract, and he's going to entertain his options. I mean, it really just comes down to that. The fact of the matter is that he's a superstar in this league, and we all know it to be true. In all likelihood, he's going to be a reigning 2-time league MVP, averaging 29 and 13 a game. Even though you're going to point the finger at him and feel like he could have done more, teams would line up for him if his services were available. And Milwaukee would be desperate to keep him, because it's not like they're in Southern California or South Beach. People are not going to be clamoring to go to Milwaukee, Wisconsin to play basketball. And so they must keep him as an organization. And if you show that you can't necessarily win with him, it's one thing for you to try to buffer the roster, but who's to say he's not going to be of the mindset that, you know what, it might be time for me to move on, particularly when you invested approximately $180 million in Chris Middleton.
And it'll also be interesting to see because the Bucks don't have a major TV deal. If there's no fans in the stands last year, their ownership is definitely going to be taking a loss. So the question is, are they going to be willing to pay all these guys and want to continue the season? Because their ownership has shown, especially through the Malcolm Brogdon situation, that they're going to be cheap, even though they have a generational talent in Giannis. They could have kept Brogdon and just went over the cap, but they're not willing to bite that bullet. And that ownership group that owns the Bucks, they are very wealthy. They're redesigning that whole downtown Milwaukee area. Those guys can afford it, but they didn't want to do it.
And he's really not making that much noise. If you are the Greek freak, you're looking at that and you're saying, excuse me, what's our situation moving forward? If I can't rely on this guy come postseason time to pick up any slack that I'm lacking when we already gave him this boatload of money and he ain't getting it done.
Yeah, you look at that Bucks at Milwaukee's roster. Brook Lopez is not shooting it well this year, especially compared to last year. They've taken certain steps back that you would think would hurt them in the big moment. And what they really need is a kind of combination of Bledsoe and Middleton, right? Someone who can shoot and defend and maybe put it on the floor a little more and
also a combination of what's his name, George Hill, also off the bench. That's a nice little pickup for them. George Hill just does a little bit. The combination of those three guys, it should get them over the hump. But like I said, this series, it should just be the first layer of adversity for the Bucks because they're gonna have much tougher matchups coming up after this.
And play make a little more than Middleton. And Bledsoe doesn't shoot it well enough and has gone away in the playoffs. It's really, they need to find the crime partner for Antetokounmpo in these playoffs. I do think there are promising signs from Middleton. He got very hot at the end of that game, and he needs to continue to play like that. But who says he can't? Middleton had a very, very good regular season until the bubble, and he's one of the better two-way off guards in the league. So I don't see why. I don't think that's impossible that Middleton plays well enough for them to win.
Yeah, Middleton just doesn't have the look of a star in the league. I don't want to say superstar, just a regular star, especially a complimentary star to Giannis, but he definitely is. He's very efficient. His shooting is really good. I mean, there's nothing really to say that he can't do it. It's just all mental from here.
Max, because he's going against Jimmy Butler, one of the best wing defenders in the league. And I think what Milwaukee took a step back at is by losing Malcolm Brogdon in the free agency. I thought he was a key piece that they took for granted or couldn't afford, right? So when I'm looking at this, yes, Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks, they have to reach the finals, or in my opinion, Giannis is going to walk straight out the front door. They have to reach the finals. There's no other way around it. No conference finals. They have to get to the finals.
I don't think Giannis will walk straight out the door on Milwaukee, per se. I just think that he may actually get outpitched by Milwaukee by Pat Riley. It's a very high possibility that Pat Riley is going to outpitch the Milwaukee Bucks, especially with Miami having no state income tax. Pat Riley has a lot of leverage. He is a championship, just guy overall, coach, president. Everything about Pat Riley, everywhere he's gone, even the New York Knicks, when he went there, that's the most success that they had in the last 20 years. So he molded LeBron James into being, to understanding what success in the NBA is like. And he could possibly do the same thing for Giannis.
I'm not saying they have to win it, but they at least have to get to the finals. Otherwise, I believe Giannis is gone.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. This is going to be a very interesting series. Hopefully, Milwaukee just wraps it up against Orlando because that shit's just taking way too long. And we're going to get the first pressurized situation for the Milwaukee Bucks. It'll be very good to see how they're going to react. But it's just going to be a light little punch to the stomach because Milwaukee should be able to step over this Miami Heat team. They just don't have a star that can go up to a Giannis's level. And I believe on the inside also, it's going to be hard for them to stop a player like Giannis. But it is what it is. Until next time, you guys stay safe. Peace.